Well, good afternoon, everyone. And on behalf of the board, the staff of Gardiner Dairy Foundation, thank you very much for joining us for this, our post-AGM webinar. Normally at this time of the year, we of course have an in-person reception, but regrettably circumstances currently don't permit us to do that. But we really do appreciate you taking the time to join us for this webinar. Over the next hour, what we plan to do is reflect a little bit on the year past, but then importantly look at the year forward. And then we'll also have, as we usually do in these post-AGM receptions, we'll have a bit of a look at some of the projects that Gardiner supports. And in that exercise, we'll actually talk to 4 people who have participated in a Gardiner project, in which I think you'll find they've got some really interesting stories and impressions to share with us. We'll start off with hearing from our outgoing chair, Bruce Kefford, who will talk about the past year. And then we'll meet our incoming chair, Len Stevens, who will talk importantly about the future and where Gardiner Foundation will be aiming to assist the broader industry sector here in Victoria and of course, dairy communities. When we come to the 4 panel people that we'll talk with, I'll introduce Richard Meredith, who will lead that session. But again, thank you very much for joining us. We hope you find this session both informative and particularly our latter session quite motivating. So I'd like to introduce now our outgoing chair, Dr. Bruce Kefford. Over to you, Bruce.
Thank you, Clive, and hello, everyone. After what has been a particularly tough period for the dairy industry, we've seen a progressive improvement in dairy farm operating conditions with much better seasonal conditions, reduced feed costs and favourable prices. On the other hand, COVID has brought profound worldwide changes with dramatic impacts on people's lives locally, as well as in global markets. Working effectively together to respond constructively to change is an industry strength that has been demonstrated time and time again. The most recent example is the Australian Dairy Plan, which was launched last month after an extended industry-wide collaborative effort to improve the industry's profitability, confidence and unity. Gardiner is proud to have been an active contributor to the development of this plan through leadership, governance, resources and strategic thinking in this vital endeavour. The Australian Dairy Plan is a unique opportunity. It has brought together partners from across the dairy value chain to deliver a single plan with a single set of priorities drawn from the widest industry consultation. It provides a very good roadmap to a more profitable, confident and united future for the industry. It is important to recognise, however, that this plan will only achieve its full potential if everyone in the industry contributes to its delivery. The commitments, the priorities, the actions in the plan will guide the future priorities in the Gardiner's new strategic plan. Our newly elected chair will shortly provide an overview of the approach to proactively contribute to the Dairy Plan's goals and priorities. Our 2020 annual report, which will soon appear on our website, has an extensive coverage of the range of activities and services Gardiner has undertaken in the 1920 year. I would encourage you to read it, and I would like to highlight a few of the programs described in it. Firstly, in our RD&E program, the Dairy Bio and Dairy Feed-based partnership with Agriculture Victoria and Dairy Australia has continued to perform strongly, built on a truly world-leading science base. 2 exciting examples are new ryegrass varieties that are now several steps closer to commercial release and are displaying some very exciting yield improvements. There are also several new breeding values for animal traits released commercially to Australian dairy farmers via DataGene. These innovations will deliver very significantly to the returns of dairy farmers and, importantly, the wider benefit of the industry. The capacity of these 3 organisations represents a remarkable asset for the dairy industry and one that should be treasured by it. Secondly, in our people and community development program, leadership development is a high priority investment. In 2019 and 20, we supported more than 20 industry people to participate in leadership development programs delivered through the Australian Rural Leadership Foundation, Nuffield Australia, Regional Leadership Australia, the Australian Rural Leadership Program, and the Australian Institute of Company Directors. We also had 27 rural students this year studying with Gardiner Tertiary Scholarships that importantly helps them study away from home. I would also like to note a unique aspect of Gardiner's role in supporting small Victorian dairy communities through our partnership with the Foundation for Rural and Regional Renewal. Our Working in Dairy Community Small Grants program provided over $121,000 in 1920 to local projects across Victoria's dairy regions that really make a difference. The last year has been challenging for everyone faced with COVID-19 restrictions. And despite the need for us and our many collaborators to work remotely, I'm pleased to say that while a small number of our projects needed to be postponed, we have been able to sustain our industry support activities while discovering new ways of online service delivery that we will continue to use to reach more people. I would also like to emphasise that despite the COVID impacts on financial markets, the Gardiner's diversified investment approach has meant our asset base remains very sound and capable of providing funds for ongoing project investments. In conclusion, today is my last day as Gardiner Chairman and a cause for a brief reflection on 6 excellent years. In this time, I've been privileged to work with outstanding people on important topics for a great industry. I think Gardiner makes an important contribution, and it's thanks to many people, including the members, Grant, Terry and Paul, the Minister of Agriculture, the Gardiner directors, the CEO and our marvellous staff, our partners and collaborators who help fund and deliver the programs, the Australian Dairy Plan chairs and CEOs and their staff for an outstanding effort, and of course the many farmers, manufacturers and dairy communities whom we serve. I'm very proud of Gardiner, and I take with me a heart filled with gratitude for the opportunity to serve in this role and the many friends and colleagues it has given me. I would now like to introduce my successor, Dr Len Stevens. Len is remarkably well qualified to take over this role. He brings a wealth of experience in corporate governance and leadership, science, stakeholder engagement and project management. He has a long history of working with the Australian agricultural industries, and I am sure he will provide an outstanding leadership of the Foundation and close engagement with the dairy industry. Over to you, Len.
Can you see me? Thank you, Bruce, and welcome everybody, and thank you very much for being here this afternoon. I'm really chuffed as my first official duty in this role as chair, which I assumed about half an hour ago, to really sincerely thank Bruce for his exceptional contributions to the Foundation and to the dairy industry. The members said something about Bruce earlier on at our AGM, but I'd just like to take a moment to thank Bruce. He and I worked together off and on over the years for quite a long time, and there are two characteristics that come to my mind when I think about Bruce, and that is strategy and leadership. And over 2 terms as chair of the Foundation, Bruce, you've been instrumental in implementing the Foundation strategy, but also everybody I talk to holds you in the highest respect for the guidance that you've provided to the overall industry, and also the personal guidance that you provide to so many. Not always invited, I would imagine, but nonetheless well-meaning. And in fact, I would doubt that there would be very many people listening today who haven't at some stage been approached by Bruce to say, hey, look, we can do this better, or we can do this bigger, or we can be more innovative. You know, how many of you know have had Bruce in close quarters encouraging you to do that? And more importantly, not only will he encourage you to do that, but he'll then work with you to help find the resources to do it. So Bruce, you've had a profound effect on Gardiner. You leave a solid platform and, of course, an enduring impact for the industry. And, of course, if we're all standing around, we'd be clapping now, but congratulations and well done. And I hope we see some more of you. My early life in dairy revolved around dairy farms in Leongatha and Maffra, and for a while I was a veterinary pathologist at the Bensdale Laboratory, servicing the industry from there. I then went astray for a while and worked for the prime lamb industry and the beef industry, wool, and then seafood. And they're all marvellous industries. You know, I learned a lot and great people, but now I'm back in the dairy industry. And, you know, for me, the dairy industry, I've always regarded as an industry with a really big heart. Yes, we have our problems, and like a family, it's easy to criticise the people you know well within the family. But, you know, Gardiner and the dairy industry has always been really enthusiastic about embracing change and innovation. So I'm really pleased to be back. I recognise I've got a bit to learn and a bit to catch up with, but I'm really, really very pleased to be back. And look, it's an important time to be back too, because the work that all of you have done in preparation of the dairy plan gives a really clear path forward. And I'm acutely aware that I've joined the team at a time when we need to move on with implementation of the plan. We've got to get cracking. And John Brumby delivered these three words really well in his launch of the plan, the words profitability, confidence, and unity. A really great leadership sort of handle to get behind. And so to deliver on those sentiments, what the Gardiner Foundation will be doing will be focusing on where we have expertise, where we have experience, and where we can add the most value from our programs to attempt to work with others to deliver the plan. And it's been very reassuring over the past 12 months that I've been a director of Gardiner to watch how Clive and his staff work with the directors to align the expertise we have with the expertise of Dairy Australia, with industry groups, with research agencies and so on. And, you know, they put together some fantastic programs. And I'd just like to talk to a couple of those that Gardiner will be supporting as part of the dairy plan. First, relate to people and community development. Three areas in particular that line up with the plan: attracting new people to dairy, leadership development, and farm business skills. Attracting new people into dairy, both pre and post-farm gate, is an existing area of investment for Gardiner, and we'll continue to strengthen that through the offering of scholarships, through industry placements, and doing the research that we need to do to find out what the barriers are to people from rural and metropolitan areas joining the industry and working to overcome those barriers. In the area of leadership, again, an area of familiar territory for Gardiner, because it's a strong belief that supporting emerging industry leaders is a tried and true way of maintaining a positive culture and a positive industry that can act in unison when it needs to. So we'll continue to put substantial investment into the leadership area, and of course we have been and will continue to work with other partners on developing the new dairy industry leadership strategy. Farm profitability is one of the key planks of the Australian Dairy Plan, and improving farm business skills is an essential precedent to improving profitability. So over the past year, Dairy Australia and Gardiner have been cooperating in developing the Our Farm, Our Plan program, And just to re-emphasise the sort of the three key elements of that strategy or that program is to support dairy farmers to clarify their strategic goals, identify and prioritise the actions that are needed to achieve those goals, and learn how to manage risks and capture opportunities. But importantly, this program, and it's something that makes it a standard, I think, is that it will provide each and every farm with one-on-one professional support. And that support will be tailored to the needs of individual businesses, something that's critical to maximise uptake of these programs. And again, Gardiner will be working directly with Dairy Australia in partnership to deliver that program across Victoria. Can I move on to research and development? While the dairy plan is, the dairy plan is quite clear that as we plan transformation of the industry, we shouldn't lose sight for some of the underlying fundamental programs that occur that back up the industry. And research and development is a key one of those, and it's Gardiner's highest area of investment. So we'll continue to invest in R&D with a passion. And again, it's been very pleasing to see Gardiner in operation, seeing the way in which they make sure that, or we make sure that those R&D programs have a clear path onto farm to increase on-farm profitability. And I've been fortunate to see a lot of R&D programs all over the world, and I can sit here and just confidently say that Dairy Bio and Dairy Feed Base are two of the best programs I've ever seen, both in the way in which they're put together by the venture partners, the quality of the people, the scale of the resources, and the outputs that they have delivered and will continue to deliver. So those programs are being updated in consultation with the joint venture partners, and we will definitely continue to invest in those programs. The area of industry engagement and strengthening communities is another area of the dairy plan that Gardiner will support, as we have always continued, as we always have done so in the past. Things like development programs, supporting industry strategic consultations, working where we can to assist with the structural reform, supporting the well-being of dairy communities. So all of those activities will continue, and of course we'll always be around at times of crisis to contribute where our contribution can work best. So that's a quick summary of where we're going with where Gardiner's going in support of the Australian Dairy Plan. It's been great to have Clive leading the show to sort of guide us all into the right directions and add his extraordinary level of knowledge to each of those programs has been very helpful to me as an incoming chair. So Gardiner really is a truly unique organisation. Somebody said this morning that other states should be jealous of Gardiner, and I agree with that. It is a really unique opportunity for Victoria. And so I'm, of course, very pleased to be able to lead the foundation for the coming years. I hope I've convinced you that we are solidly behind the Australian Dairy Plan, and I can assure you that our desire to collaborate in its introduction, in the introduction of that plan, is very strong, both amongst staff and around the board table. And I hope to meet many of you in person just as soon as we can get over this horrible COVID thing. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Bruce and Len. Bruce, you've had a lot of comments made about you from quite well deserved from across the industry. Can I just add from my own perspective and on behalf of the Gardiner staff, it's actually been a pleasure, a delight to work with you in taking Gardiner forward, and in particular, working with the broader industry and the influence that you've had. So an outstanding effort, Bruce, and I and the staff are extremely grateful to you. And Len, Bruce, I think has well described Len's background, and similarly in the presentation he's just done, I think it should give everyone a lot of confidence and some real inspiration that I think Len will be an excellent follow-on from Bruce. And certainly I and the staff will be really looking forward to working with you, Len.